Well, this is the random selection I made. SCP-096 and SCP-106. Don't worry, all those other SCP videos are definitely coming. So if you're a watcher that has hopped on my videos, pause. For the SCPs, don't worry. They're all coming. Honestly, they're all coming. That's a little bit sus. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sending out a lot of love. This is SCP Illustrated, as always. SCP Illustrated, as always. Again, if you want me to take down any of my videos, I do not mind. This is Shy Guy versus the Old Man, featuring Dr. Whittier and Dr. Cimmerian, I think, but I could be wrong. But let's go. Top right in. No time to waste. I don't know if that's somebody's ultimate. Is that someone's ultimate?
Good day, everyone, and welcome back to SCP Illustrated, entry log 86. It's been a while, but here I am at last with another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at an encounter between SCP-096 and SCP-106. Now, this is not an official cross-testing experiment. This encounter was written by myself and Dr. Cimmerian for the purposes of this video. Okay. And with that in mind, this SCP-096 test and all future 096 test videos should be considered as SCP tales rather than official SCP documents. Now, this is an SCP battle, and this video does contain extremely strong violence.
Oh, ready for it. Needed some action right when I wake up first in the morning to program my mind with more violence so then I can go out and commit act. I'm just joking. Listen, so so who is the writer for the official like SCP things, like the foundation itself? Who whipped it up? Who created it? Does anyone have videos like on the origins of all of this? But
blood, gore, flaying, and scenes of torture. Without further ado, let's begin.
Let's go. Open arms from 106.
The following data release has been authorized by the following council members and administration staff.
Dude was.
Site. Full site containment breach.
That was just so funny to me.
Junior researcher Dr. Whittier. Recovery and recontainment note. SCP-096.
SCP-096 has been successfully returned to its containment cell. A trolley system was required to return SCP-096 to its containment cell as it assumed the fetal position and refused to stand up. In the same corridor that SCP-096 was located, evidence of SCP-106's corrosive properties were discovered on the floors and walls. It is noteworthy that SCP-096 showed significantly elevated levels of stress when bypassing surfaces affected by SCP-106's corrosive properties.
So even SCP-096 is exhibiting levels of stress when you see the corrosion from 106. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd bet anything would.
The old man looked at the fallen researcher with a smirk. The meal crawled away from him slowly, whimpering as it did so. It stopped for just a moment to look at the old man, and the smirk turned into a wide grin that nearly reached back to his ears.
Bro, I just remember, like, I don't know what happened to this researcher to be in this unfortunate predicament, but I just remember when they snapped the thigh bone of the other. I don't know if that was like to get them to scream just in case they agreed to sacrifice themselves and didn't. But then there was that one guy who did offer to sacrifice himself, and didn't they just snap his like thigh bone? What is it? Jesus, like.
This would be delicious.
Oh.
Then the door ahead of them opened. A pale, gangly figure plodded forward with unnaturally long arms raised to its face. The sound of crying was faintly audible above the whimpering of the researcher between them. The crying thing lifted its head and met the old man's gaze, and everything changed. The crying got louder and then became screaming. The old man let the emotions wash over him. Shame, pain, sadness, finally rage. The figure dropped its hands and then its jaw opened wide, then wider still. The old man caught the slight crackle of bone as the jaw distended and reached halfway down this creature's chest. The thing's eyes were little more than slits now. Tears streamed down its face and a scream echoed off the walls. It sprinted straight at him. man smirked and gave a slight chuckle before lifting his arms, as if about to embrace an old friend.
Yo,
The thing slammed into him with an impossible force.
dude was ready.
The old man felt the arms grab at him as it lifted him off his feet from the impact. The old man hit the floor and then sank into it. The creature loosened its grip as it sank into the floor as well. It tried to scramble away, but the old man plunged his hand into the creature's abdomen. Organs and muscle liquefied as he fished around for the creature's spine. Then the old man gripped it and pulled the creature down into the darkness.
Fucking Mortal Kombat? This is freaking, this is Noob from Mortal Kombat? That's pretty much what 106 is.
The old man smiled as he watched the figure hit the stone floor of his dimension.
Damn.
It looked around confused and angry before returning to its docile form.
Damn, it returned.
The old man removed the...
Damn, it returned docile? I thought, 096 basically continued until the thing that saw its face was dead. From what I remember from what I first learned about 096.
floor beneath it and watched it clutching frantically at the darkness. It fell onto jagged rocks that sliced into its skin. Then he crushed it between two walls before letting it come to a rest.
The old
It was on
man's
its
kind of
knees.
OP.
Panting and bleeding, but alive. This thing was unusually resilient, but it was afraid. It was lost. It was ashamed. There was only one thing to do about that. The old man willed away the labyrinth and dropped the figure into a new hell.
Damn. Is that World War II or what? Oh, you heard the old man's laugh?
Razor wire stretched across the field and away to the horizon in both directions. Artillery flashed in the distance, and then again as the shots landed nearby in and around the trenches. Planes strafed those trenches with machine gun fire. The rain and hail beat the earth, flooding everything. There were bodies piled high along the trenches, some living and screaming for relief, for their mothers, for mercy. Fires burned and lightning snaked across the sky.
I hope SCP Illustrated does a great job of explaining why he brought him here. I'm very, very curious to find out why this was what the old man must be pulling a fucking 1,000 IQ move. Which the old man already has him in his dimension, so it wouldn't really matter.
To hit the earth with a wet thud.
Maybe
It
needs
tried
a
to
new
stand
unique
and the rain
moment.
caused the mud to slide off its form. The ground was rocked by an explosion and it was thrown into a trench, landing with a splash in a mix of filth and blood. It staggered to its feet and began moving through the trench, crying as the rain scoured its skin. The old man willed the razor wire to wrap around the figure and pulled it taut. He watched in glee as the blood flowed freely, adding to the river of filthy water that was flowing in the trench.
Oh, this drawing
However,
is crazy.
He heard no cries of pain. He waved a hand and the razor wire began whipping the figure on the back, tearing off layer after layer until the...
Okay, so this is actually going against all lore I know about 096. I heard 096 basically regenerates instantly. Like they tried explosions or like... I've heard, I can't remember what SCP video I watched a long time ago where I heard you can like remove its limbs and it still like comes extremely fast. Like it is relentless. But I remember it being like damn near like bulletproof, but I could be wrong. But I don't know. Like it just seems like barbed wire is not gonna do shit to it. Maybe make the visual tear. We'll see.
Lengths of ripped flesh hung down to its knees, exposing the bone beneath. Still, no cries of pain. He released the creature, which dropped to its knees and began crying again. This was not enough. Another bomb impacted behind it and threw it off its feet. The hard rain stopped for a moment as dozens of artillery shells exploded all at once around them. The creature's skin bubbled away and its blood boiled. It was still not enough.
I'm not gonna lie, this is a little bit sad on SCP-106's part. He thought the best place he could bring him was like the World War trenches, that fight, just to use everything there. what next you're gonna hear there was artillery and now what, mustard gas, something like what is gonna happen? Flamethrowers gonna come by and toast him even more? Like, this is the best thing you could think of 106. Come on now.
He dropped earth on it. He buried it under blood and bones and metal. The old man could see it pulling its way through the mud. Ghostly soldiers with no faces began appearing as the figure pulled itself free. They jeered and tormented the creature. They struck it with their rifles and plunged their bayonets deep into its body.
Come on, SCP.
The old man watched on as the
096.
charred flesh began to fall away, revealing fresh skin beneath. The soldiers dragged the creature up the walls of the trench and strapped it with razor wire to a length of wood. They flayed the skin from its legs, slowly making their way up, whistling the song "It's a Long Way to Tipperary."
Don't know
Each piece of flesh was tossed back into the trench, where it slowly succumbed to rot and maggots.
Bruh.
The old man's eyes rolled back, and he raised a hand to the sky. Just then, a colossal bird made of feathers and bones and metal descended from the clouds and moved across the sky.
To feed
A
on its
massive
stomach.
eye opened on the bird's stomach, looking down at the battlefield.
What?
Torrents of blood began to flow out of the trapped creature's mouth towards the eye, choking off the moans and cries. As time passed, more blood flowed out of its wounds, its eyes and its fingernails. Lightning illuminated the makeshift altar, and the dark black and red fluid drifted lazily into the sky. The figure fell limp.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, it takes a lot to disturb me, but I can definitely acknowledge when something is disturbing. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, that was freaky, that really fucked with me. But no, I genuinely, it takes a lot, but I can acknowledge how wild this is. Do you see his drawings? Like, they're insane, like giving so much it's literally beautiful. It's crazy, beautifully disgusting at the same time, but like, bruh, it's insane how much detail he's putting into these. It's really actually crazy. I will continue to say that. But then the writing too. This is not a verses. This is not a verse. This is literally torturing one of the other SCPs with one SCP. This is the torturing of SCP-096 from 106. But let me not talk. We still got a few minutes in the video, so maybe it gets better.
As
But
the bird thing
this is
finally
just
finished
straight
its
up
passage.
a
The old man
one-sided
approached
fight.
the figure. It was barely breathing. The thing's taut, rotten flesh fell off it like wet paper.
Now I know the old man doesn't kill. He loves to torture, right? He loves to keep the victim alive as long as possible. So
Second, the old man was rising up through the floor of the Foundation facility once more, dragging the lifeless corpse of the creature with him. The old man dumped it on the floor and looked down. It was slowly starting to grow new flesh. New blood spilled from what veins had begun to heal. The thing had curled up in the fetal position, crying to itself. He kneeled in front of it, but the figure refused to look at him. The old man grinned widely once more, and left it to its weeping.
bruh, it basically scared the shit out of 096 enough to, like, it didn't even want to look at him.
And that concludes the encounter between SCP-106 and SCP-096. You know, sometimes people give 096, 173 and 682 too much credit, I think. They may be immortal and all-powerful and all that jazz, but 106 has the power to create his own dimension, and he controls what goes on in there. Poor Shy Guy had no chance of standing against a god in his own universe.
That is,
Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did.
or a godlike entity. That's very true. The rest of the videos, I'm sure him just shouting stuff out. So shout out to him. Shout out to the features, and actually he made a really good point there. That is true. That's not exactly why it's not exactly why I was giving him credit though, but I do agree with that. I do feel like, yeah, maybe the more hyped SCPs do get hyped a little bit, but I just thought from videos I watched, it made it seem like he's damn near like that. If 106, this was supposed to be like a fight, that okay, so things I've heard, this is what I was coming from my prior knowledge, is that SCP, once you look at its face, it does not stop. There's like nothing that would stop it, even if its limbs were blown off, even if if it was damaged to like E, like I'm talking like you put this thing through whatever, it does not stop attacking. It will continue. Like I remember, okay, as I'm starting to say it, the memories are starting to come back up, finally finding those folders in my mind to pull it out. But there was one, they tried to put a guy in like a box underwater from what I remember, and they had him look at a drawing of SCP, or you can look at drawings. I think it was like a photograph. If you see a photograph of SCP-096's face, and that shit swam to the bottom of the ocean or wherever they put this dude in the cage that viewed it, and began to like pummel that shit. Like it just got stronger and stronger and broke through straight metal. Like I'm pretty sure like it's way more relentless than it was like made to be in this. So even if that video I watched was giving it way too much credit, or that wasn't the official SCP, because I'm pretty sure that video, well, at the time, I don't know, it was deep ago, so I don't know if that person was saying in the beginning of their videos, this is not official writing, but I don't know, from the time that was my basically knowledge of it, that it was. But from what I remember, yeah, the SCP-096, let me just say 096, stop saying the SCP, but 096 is relentless from what I heard. Just like literally nothing you do to it will make it stop its assault. So it was a bit confusing when it got into his dimension and just stopped. I feel like he would know its position no matter what. Like he would try to basically still attack anything. And then like from that last one, how it went down, but then it made sense because I was like, it is called Shy Guy, but I just thought all evidence of being shy is dropped when you view its face. So when we got here and he just, pulled it back to the foundation floor, and he looked at SCP-0 I did it again, at 096, that it would get back into that bloodlusting chase. Like, because it doesn't stop until the target it's chasing is dead, from what I remember. But that's all my prior knowledge. There's a few other things that I could say for it too, but yeah, mine does not come from hype. I literally thought that, like, from the video, also same video, that it literally was like you could shoot rocket launchers at this motherfucker and that did not like blow off its limbs. Like you needed to like consistently put lead down range to remove SCP-096's limbs. So like when barbed wire was tearing them apart, I'm like, what the fuck? Like way different from what I thought. But I feel like also none of this is set in stone. So if you're at this part, please keep that in mind too. I feel like with SCPs, everyone can make their own, obviously, write stories, write different things. So maybe this really was maybe a exaggerated video of SCP-096's capabilities. But at the end of the day, I really would have wanted to see the more aggressive 096 that I've seen in the past. At least try to relentlessly attack the old man. But it would be pretty much a done deal fight, because this dude could just put him in. First of all, can go through the floor like noob. Basically open his arms because you knew it was a wrap then. But yeah, nah, we're gonna call it what it is, and we're not even gonna call this like, I mean, you can call it, we'll call it a versus, obviously, because it's like they versed each other, but we're gonna call this the absolute stomping and just sit down of 96 by 106. This was not a verse. This was just not a versus. But yeah, that was a good video. But it was like bad. I feel bad for 096. 096 just got floored the entire time, and that was the writing. It was basically just torture writing. Didn't even get like the whole plot armor protagonist twist to come back to attack it again. It just curled up and started crying again. Come on now. And 106 was kind of like and walked away. Come on. I didn't want to see that ending, but hey, not all endings are endings you want to see. All right, much love and moonlight. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.